Hey everyone, it's Chris, and welcome to another episode of the Weekly Coder. This week we're going to do a video that was a subscriber request. We're going to add a quit button to our main menu, our pause screen, and the game over scene. After that, we're going to also add a score to our game over screen so that the player can see what their score is. Now with the quit game, what's going to happen is we're going to have to actually build our application so that we can quit the application, and we can't actually do that in the Unity editor. So let's go ahead and get started with that. What we've got our Tetris clone open, okay, and we're going to go ahead and jump into our scenes folder. Here we've got our three scenes. We've got the game over, the game menu, the game over, and the level scene. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and open up the game menu scene. All right, and here we've got a level selector, we've got our high scores, and we've got our play button. So now what we're going to do is we're going to create a quit button here as well. So the easiest way to do this, the quickest way, is we're just going to duplicate the play button. Okay, so we can do that one of two ways. We're going to do it in our hierarchy. Here with the button selected, we're just going to right click and we're going to click duplicate. Okay, so that created a button 1. Let's name this. Let's just call it button underscore quit. Okay, and it doesn't look like it created a duplicate, and that's because it is basically in the exact same position. So we're going to want to use our transform tool to move that down a little bit. Okay, and as you can tell, we've still got got the play text. So we're going to expand this button out. Going to go to the text element of the button, and we're going to change this to quit. Okay. Now, the way that these buttons work, if you'll remember, is we've got a game menu script on here. Okay, so right now our game menu script is calling a method called play game. All right. So we don't actually want to use the play game method. We want to use a different one. So we're going to create a quit game method. So where do we need to go here? We need to go to our scripts folder, and that is in the game menu. Okay, so let's wait a second here while Mono Develop decides to open, and it opened on my other screen, so let's just move it over. Okay, so in our game menu script, we've got our play game method. Okay, and we're going to just go ahead and add in a new method here, and we'll call this public. And we're going to call it, sorry, not play, quit game. Okay. All right, so now we've got our method, and we should probably put code in it. And as far as the code, it's very, very simple. We just do application.quit, which is a method that actually just shuts down the application. Right? So that's all we really need in there. So we'll save that. Oops. Yeah, see? Mono Develop's getting really good at this. So we're missing a semicolon. Let's add that in. Okay, error's gone. All right, let's save that. Let's close Mono Develop. All right, so now going back to our button, we're going to change this to game menu, quit game. All right. So let's go ahead and test this functionality. So what we'll have to do here is we'll have to go to File, Build and Run. Okay. We've got the PC, Mac, and Linux standalone platform selected. We don't need to change any of these settings. We don't need to change the architecture or the target platform. So now we're just going to click on Build and Run. And I'm going to just save mine to the desktop. And we're going to go ahead and let's just call this Tetris clone. And that's going to be the name of the application, by the way. All right, so we'll say save. Now it's going to compile all the scripts. And we really haven't covered building yet, so I'm not going to get too much into this. The details and whatever is involved in building an application, but basically, this is what happens after you build an application. It becomes an executable application that you can run on your Mac or on Windows, depending on what kind of build you're making, or Linux for that matter. And then what's included by default is this configuration option, like this dialog window. And what will happen is when you run your game, okay, this will be the first thing that launches. And you can select the resolution that you want your game to run at, whether it's going to run in a windowed or a full screen. We're just going to go ahead and select windowed. I'm going to do 800 by 600. And then we'll just go ahead and click on play. All right, so now we've got this application launching, okay, our Tetris clone. And this is what it looks like. All right, so we can, let's go ahead and play. Or no, you know what, let's just go ahead and quit. Quitting should shut down the application. There we go. Now we've quit. That's really all there is to it. So there really isn't anything else to do with that other than take this very same button and add it to our pause screen and to our game over screen. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Let's close this build settings window here. And let's go and open up our, let's see here, go back to scenes. Let's go to our level menu, our level scene. Oh, and by the way, yeah, we do need to save this scene. So let's save that. All right, so we're in our level scene. We've got our pause canvas. And our pause canvas is currently not being rendered. So let's go ahead and turn that on so that we can see what we're doing. And then we're going to add a button. All right, and we're going to change its size. Let's see, what did we make that? Save this real quick. Go back to our game menu. That button is 300 by 70, and the font size is 52. All right. Okay, so we're in here. So the button is 300 by 70, and the font size, I think, was 52. All right, and then we'll change the text to quit game. Oops. Move that down. And then we're gonna go ahead and add our game menu script to this. Oops, not our game menu. Actually, yes, our game menu. But we need to add it here to the on-click event. Oh, okay, so here's what we forgot to do. See how we have in our game menu, we have a game object called the game menu script, and that game menu script is basically attached to our game menu script object, right? So we need to create that in our level scene because that doesn't exist here. So we're going to go ahead and create empty. Okay, we're going to call it game menu script. And then we're going to attach from our scripts folder our game menu script. Okay, and we don't need to set any of these here because we don't use these values here. We just use the quit game method. Okay, so in our button now we can add the game menu script game object. Oops. Let's zoom back out of here. To our button. Add game menu script, game object, or game menu, sorry, quick game. Okay, and let's see here, that should be that. So let's test that out. So we'll do file, build and run. Okay, and do 800 by 600 again in a windowed mode and click play. We forgot to do something. Our pause menu is just gonna show up here because we forgot to disable it. Okay, So I'll save that. Build and run. Mm. 800 by 600 windowed. Play. And then let's go ahead and play the game. Okay. Okay, now I'm just wasting time. Alright, anyway, so we're going to hit pause. So we've got this quick game button now. And we're quit. Okay. So finally, let's go ahead and go to our game over scene, which has right now just the game menu button. So we'll just duplicate that, so you can do Command D, okay, creates another button. Let's call this button quit, so we don't get confused. Move it down a little bit. And then we're going to change the text to quit. And then we need to also, let's see here, quit. Oh yeah, we need to change this from launch game menu to game menu quit game. Alright, so I'll save that. And then let's go ahead and go to File, Build and Run. Okay, 800 by 600, and we'll leave that, and we'll do windowed, click play. Alright, now I gotta play for a minute so that we can actually get to the game over. Should be pretty quick though. Oh, okay. Fine. Alright, so now we can go to the game menu or we can quit. Alright. One thing I do want to cover really quick, and I don't know if I've mentioned this in a previous tutorial, but when you go to build and run, it automatically uses the settings that you've specified in build settings. So now if you go back to build settings, see how the scenes in the build are basically in this order here, 0, 1, and 2. That is the order that the scenes are going to load in when you start the application, okay? So this ensures that our game menu is the first scene that's going to launch. If we had level first at index 0, then the level scene would launch first and we would never get to see the game menu until we actually got to the game over screen and clicked on the game menu from there. So that's just really quick here. We need to keep these in this order, okay? And if you want to ever exclude a scene, you don't have to actually delete it, you can just uncheck it. So if you want to throw a test scene in here to test with, you can actually just uncheck it if you don't want it to be part of the build anymore. Okay, so that is that. And you know, there is a ton more that you can do with this. So if you go to player settings, you can actually change a lot of these things. You can set your icons, your splash images, and all kinds of other settings that we are not going to get into. If you guys want a tutorial at any point for that, let me know. It is involved, so it could be, you know, turn into a 30-minute video, which I don't really want to throw into this right now, okay? So what else we need to do at our game over screen is probably add some text that says game over for one. So here we're going to go ahead and just add the UI text object. All right, let's move that up a little bit. We're going to make that way bigger. Let's go with like 700 in the width, maybe 200 in height. Make the font size bigger. Center it. And game over. Let's make that 900 maybe. Okay. Alright, so let's make sure we're in the middle. Oops. So set position X to 0. Okay. Alright, and now we want to know what our score is, right? Our final score. So what are we doing? We've got, let's save this, what we've got. Alright, so in our game menu scene, when we click play, we're saving our high scores, right? We've got first, second, and third. We don't so much care about what the high scores are at the end of the game. We care about what the last score was that the player got at the end of the game, right? So at this point, we're at the game over. All right. So when we play our level, okay, and our score. So our score is what we are storing here. Okay. So what we're doing is, let's have a look here. I apologize. I haven't done anything with this in so long that I don't actually remember the variables or anything. So here, let's go into the game class. Let's have a look here what we're doing. So we're storing current score as a static integer. Okay, so we should be able to just use this variable to display our score in the game over scene. So let's see what happens when we get to game over. So we're doing update high score, and then we're doing application.load level game over. Okay. So we're loading the game over scene. And in the game over scene, let's see here. We don't actually have our game script, okay? So we need okay, so in the game over scene, we actually what we need to do here is we need to reference maybe we can do it in the game menu script. Yeah, we should be able to do it in a game menu script. We'll add. Alright, let's do it this way. Let's go in the game menu. And let's do this. Let's create public text. Let's call it last score. Right? And then when this script loads, so when the scene loads, we're going to populate last score.text, the text property of that game object, and that's going to actually equal the game.current_. And that should be good because, well, no, we gotta do toString because that's an integer. So that should actually display our score. So let's save that, and then let's go into, actually let's add another text object, 2 more text objects. We're gonna do text. Let's make that a little bigger. Let's go with 300 and maybe 70. I'll call this score. I'll center it. Make it bigger. Now we're going to duplicate this. Oops. Duplicate score text object. Move it down right about there. I'll make that, set it to 0 by default. And then go back to our game menu script. And for our last score game object, we're going to just set this text2, okay, which is this one here, okay, the one that we basically put a 0 in. All right, so let's go ahead and go to our game menu scene, hit play, and let's play the game. Okay, so our score is 810, 890, and that didn't work. Of course not. Because do you guys know why that didn't work? It's because once we switched to the other scene, the integer that we're trying to reference actually became uninitialized, because all those variables, when you're switching from one scene to the next, even though they're static variables, they become null references because they don't basically exist anymore. And this is just a memory management thing that Unity does. So we can do a couple of things to persist. And the easiest one would probably just use player prefs, right? Kind of like how we're doing in, let's see here, go back to scripts, got a game. If we go to update high score, okay, basically we're storing, so if current score is greater than starting high score, and blah, 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 blah. Here we're only storing current score if we want to store it in one of the high score positions, but we want to see what our current score is regardless, right? So how about we're going to just do player prefs, set integer, we'll call it last score, and current score is what that's going to equal. Alright, so now from our game menu, we can actually do player prefs, get int, last score, toString. Okay, so now what happens is in our game script, okay, when we do update high score, this always gets set when we update the high score. And update high score is always called when game over is called, okay? And the game is over, update high score is called, and then we're loading the game over scene. So let's go ahead and play again and see what that looks like. Okay, click play. 70, 60. $530, $610, and still 0. Why is it still 0? Object reference not set to an object. Okay, well that makes sense because level text. Alright, let's go back to our game menu. Sorry, to our game over scene. And we've got our game menu script here. So because these are set to nothing, and it's trying to set those to something, I bet that's why it's not working. Alright, so let's have a look here. Okay, so what can we do? Let's try this. Let's do, first of all, see if we can get rid of some of these. If level text not equal null, then we can set level text.text equal to 0. Let's see if that gets rid of one of them. And it looks like that did work. So let's go ahead and get the rest of them taken care of. High score text does not equal null. High score text 2 does not equal null. Oops. High score text 3 does not equal null. And if last score does not equal null. And that's basically what we're doing is we're checking to see if these objects exist. So if it doesn't exist, then we don't do any of this, okay? So let's save that and let's click play. We shouldn't get any null reference exception errors. Okay, there we go. Everything is clear. And the last score is the last score is 610. So that actually worked. And that's because the last score of player prefs that we saved, because player prefs get saved, is 610 even though we didn't just play. But let's go ahead and go back to our game menu scene and let's do it for real this time. Okay, so play 80, 160, 250, 340. Let's try to get a different score. 420. 510, 600, 690, 780. Okay. So there we go. Now we can show what the last score is on the game over scene. Okay. And just to kind of touch back on what happened here, because I know that we actually did some in-video troubleshooting here. And it's only because I actually didn't prepare for this tutorial. What I usually do is I kind of go through it once first. And then I do it on the video so that I kind of already have like a little, I guess you could say, the upper hand, because I already worked through it once, and then when I'm doing it again, it's just, you know, I know the pitfalls, so I kind of avoid them. This time I'm a little short on time, so I kind of figured I would just, you know, stumble through it as I go along. And, you know, that's what happens is you in real life, when you're programming, you don't know everything, so you just kind of, you know, you kind of try to fumble your way around until you figure out what works. So, and with this, what we did, okay, so let's just kind of reiterate. In the game class, all right, we have our current score, okay, and current score is what is the variable that we use to keep track of what our score is throughout the game, okay, and that's a static integer. So this is the variable that we want to store when we hit a game over, okay, so that we can access it later. In our game over method, which is somewhere here, yep. In our game over method, which is called when the game is over, we call the update high score method, and then directly after we call the load level and load the game over scene, okay. In our update high score method, which is up here, we use player prefs to set an integer of the current score, and we store it in the last score. Okay, that's what we store it in. Then in our game menu class, in the start method, we set our last score.text, the text property of our last score game object that we created in our game over scene. Okay, we set that to the value of last score that's stored in player prefs. We only set that if the last score game object actually exists in the scene. Okay, because we had to do this because we actually use the game menu script in the game menu scene as well. Okay, so we've got the game menu scene that uses this and the game over scene. All right, so we have to make sure that all of these exist when we try to set them, otherwise we're going to generate errors. All right, so we'll save that. And you know, then the only other thing that we did in this tutorial is we created this method here, quit game, and we call application.quit anytime the user wants to quit the game. Okay. So guys, that is it. We now have a quit button, and we can quit the game, and we can show our high scores. Also, if you guys want to show the first, second, and third high score, that's just as simple. You can go back into the here in the game over scene. You can basically call this your score, whatever, current score, or this is what you got, whatever. And then you can add in the high scores just to kind of show the player what they would have had to get into this high score list of scores. Okay, so that would be kind of a neat little thing. I think I would add that in with a game because that way the player can see right there on that screen where he stands with the current game he played. Just a suggestion, but you know that's my thinking. Anyways, so next week I'll probably do another subscriber request, and that one might be a little different. I'm not really sure how exactly I'm going to do it yet, because it's gonna have to do with Facebook integration and sharing your scores on Facebook. So we're gonna have to do a couple of things. We're going to have to create a Facebook application. And then we're going to have to integrate the code that is going to be required to actually integrate with Facebook. So I don't know, maybe I'll set up a fake Facebook account to do this with. I have no idea how I'm going to do it yet. So I'm going to work on that throughout the week and then hopefully have everything together to get that done for you guys. If you have any questions, please feel free to comment. As always, do me a favor, like the video, give me some thumbs up here. Comment down below. Anything you guys want to talk about is fine. And don't forget to subscribe and pass along the news. You know, my channel is slowly growing, but steadily, which is good. You guys are doing an awesome job communicating with me, and the channel is doing great. And I'm going to keep doing these videos as long as I can keep coming up with content, and you guys keep submitting requests. All right, until next time, see you soon.